Good evening, everyone. I'd like to offer you a warm welcome to the first of our new series of creative conversations. For the next 9 weeks, we're going to be running a series of conversations between artists, writers, and curators. And we hope that you'll be able to join us for these exciting talks over the course of our new autumn term. You're no doubt all well versed with using Zoom now, but just a few points of housekeeping. As attendees, your audio and video are muted, so you'll be able to enjoy the conversation as it flows. But if you do have any questions at any point and would like to ask any questions at the end of the conversation, we'd encourage you to do so either by raising your hand in the participants box or by typing your question into the Q&A box, and we'll endeavour to answer as many questions as we can at the end of the conversation. I'm delighted to hand over to Antia Southern, who's going to introduce this evening's conversation. Antia's there.
Start my video. Hello, good evening.
Hi,
Fraser.
Nice to see you.
Oh my God, it is becoming really dark. I need to do something about my light. I'm sorry, I'm talking to you out of total darkness. I'll have to do it in a minute. So it's a real pleasure to introduce Deanio X, who is a visual artist currently exploring the gaps of popular history in the UK. And he has just finished a mural at the headquarters of the Royal Drawing School. So if you walk down Charlotte Road, you will be able to see it. Deanio X has also graduated from the drawing year in 2019 and is now an alumni of the school. His friend and collaborator is Emmanuel. He's a photographer based in London with a fascination for portraiture, urban landscape, architecture, lifestyle, and street photography. Raised on the east side of London, the fast-paced city has always kept Emmanuel on his toes and eager to document the urban and architectural elements of the city, as well as catch the unique moments that would otherwise pass him by. And tonight, Deanio X and Emmanuel Cole will discuss the shared developments of their individual artistic practices in connection to their hometown of London, where they've worked together on informal and professional projects over the years. In this discussion, they will touch on how impromptu adventures and experiences can snowball into larger projects and sustainable work, like the Stay Strong route, the significance of cultural events such as Carnival in relation to their work and practices, and how the crossover between photography, painting, and drawing can influence and enhance each other. And Dean and Emmanuel, can I hand over to you? Maybe you want to put up your slide share.
Oh, there we are. Hello.
Okay.
Are we unmuted? Yeah. You can hear us, right?
Yep. Great. Yes.
So should we load up our screen? Is that all we need to do?
Yeah, if you screen share now. Perfect.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is the first image we're going to kick off with. I selected this. This is one of my sketches. I used to do a lot of sketches on public transport. Whenever I had to go somewhere, it was like a good way to, I felt like, spend the kind of in-between time, kind of working on the things in my head, but also kind of taking in what was happening at that precise time. So I would kind of try to characterize people who were riding the train or who were getting on the bus. I chose this one because obviously it says Metro and it says shit happens. Obviously it didn't say that on the newspaper, but it was kind of like, I felt like a big part of my experience on the London commute at different times has been like watching other people who are awkwardly watching you, and you kind of are in this weird situation of being really close to somebody, but you have no actual connection to them. So I found that really interesting. I wanted to kind of just see if I could create visuals from that. And in the Metro, to me, is like something everyone reads, but you don't really kind of necessarily take in. it's just something that's very accessible. But yeah, I guess I wanted to talk about that because for me, that's a big part of like how I feel like I have dealt with London as a city to kind of live and work and grow up in, where you're close to so many people, but you don't necessarily make like profound connections too often. And I kind of wanted to start with this drawing because I feel like when I met Emmanuel, I don't know what, 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
And then in discovering that he was a photographer, for me, at this time, where I was trying to explore every possible medium to figure out what I wanted to do. I feel like that he kind of helped introduce me to the way that he saw London and his experiences of London. And he would see my drawings on from the tube and the buses, and he showed me his photography that he would capture day to day in his adventure throughout the city. So for me, yeah, this drawing is kind of like, I guess, it kind of connects. It connects mine and Emmanuel's artwork, and it's something that I wanted to kind of start with. I don't know if you want to say anything on that. Just
you broke that down well, but yeah, I remember. I actually remember this picture quite clearly because of the sketchbook that you had. When you started out basically doing your art, and I remember, I don't know, at the time I didn't really feel like I was doing much because I was always interested in art, hence kind of why I decided to go on the photographic route, because I can't draw at all. I remember trying it at school and it just was something that didn't work out for me. So luckily later on in life, I did find a medium that was perfect for me, which was taking images. And I remember looking at your pictures and kind of always making commenting about your, certain things I saw, just how I perceived it. And just later on, just seeing how that almost was quite helpful for you to just understand how another person took that image in, or your work and stuff. And I guess that's just something that's been continuing for us, sort of just that collaboration of thoughts and stuff on each other's work. So yeah.
Nice. Should we do the next one?
Yeah. All right, one sec. We were told about this. I might have to reopen this. Okay, 1 second. Should we stop sharing and then we do this?
Yeah, share screen.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you press that arrow.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. So this drawing is from a sketchbook. The reason why I chose this is because, so off of that like kind of attempt to like use what felt like, what could be downtime. So whilst I'm on the train, on the commute, instead of feeling bored, I could just draw and keep kind of working, in a sense, keep exploring ideas. So I chose this sketch now because this is a similar thing. So I went to Calais a few years ago to do some volunteering, and I did some art workshops. And whilst I was there, I wanted to kind of just be working on my own projects and kind of understanding the situation. So obviously Calais, it being like a major settlement point, illegal settlement point for refugees coming from all over the world. I wanted to go and kind of understand for myself, given kind of what I felt like those experiences, how they kind of related to my work and also just myself. So this is kind of like really early sketches of just people who I saw around there.
Oh, don't worry, I'll
Cool. It's another interruption. There might be more interruptions. So this is I was just trying to capture quickly people I saw who were in these environments which don't really get too much exposure. And the reason why this face is significant, because this is kind of the face that would form the basis of a lot of the faces I do now when I'm doing street art or creating murals. it's just a face that always comes back into the work. And I think that kind of that same energy of, you know, drawing people whilst I was on the train in London, in my hometown, that had kind of just made sketching a very kind of natural process, like a very, okay, I'm somewhere, I'm sitting down, my hands are idle, I've got a sketchbook in my bag, and I've got a pen in my bag, so I should be using it, or I could be using it. So obviously at the time, I didn't know that these drawings would have the significance that I understand they have now. In hindsight, I didn't know that. I just wanted to capture as much as possible. But now I can look back at it, and it's like a, you know, it's like a backlog of your kind of brain activity. And I think that for me, that's kind of a continuation of part of in conversations with Emmanuel, and learning about why he was photographing people around London, and what he was able to do with the camera. He was kind of learning about that individual, and then being able to show that. So then for me, like, you know, if you've got a camera in your hands, you can go out in a day and you can come back with, like, you know, 500 plus images, just because you can press that button.
Yeah.
But if you take your sketchbook out, you know, you're probably not going to fill that many pages, but at the same time, you could, if you don't allow yourself to be too precious, you could just kind of just capture as much as possible. And then see what, you know, transpires later in your mind and your thoughts when it comes to actually making something that you feel that you do want to make. So yeah, for me, this is just an image I wanted to show, to kind of show how ideas are born kind of in silence. You don't know that they're happening, but then eventually, you know, they'll come back at the right time, and they'll turn into something. So that was the reason why I chose that image. This image is a photo that Emmanuel took, and I really liked it, because I feel like it was quite a personal image for me. And I feel like he's captured a lot of what is quite personal to me, but in a way that I think could be shared quite easily with people who have less aware of the context. This is, I think, a good example of kind of understanding the power of light within an image, how kind of light enables or takes away spaces within like a given frame or framework. So this piece that I'm holding up to the light was of a series of pieces that I spent quite a lot of time on, where I was trying to learn the skills to do it whilst doing it. So I was using like the dot technique. So it was like a lot of dots and a lot of just black and white lines. But I think because that was such an isolated time making that work, it's always nice to look back on Emmanuel's photos, which I think for me, they kind of capture the environment in which the work was made. It's like, oh, I can instantly go back to that frame of mind. I can go back into that place, and it kind of, you know, it also gives more life to the work. It's a reminder of where your mind is at different times. And then, yeah, I don't know, me looking back at this photo now, that feels like so long ago.
Yeah, for me, I remember clearly like that sound of the, you know, always coming into your room and just seeing you like with the pen, just poking those dots and thinking like, what is this guy doing? Especially like that's your workspace. That's kind of where you create a lot of your imagery. But yeah, like you said, that's what I love about photography as well, just being able to like go back in time and instantly feel like you're in that place again. Like, I mean, I really can't remember taking this picture too clearly, but I do looking at that picture, I remember like the process, and it's quite strange to say that was quite early on in like your process, but the time that you put into that, and then obviously just where the direction that you've gone in with the dots and the techniques, and also me learning from you and your mentioning of light. I mean, I remember you said something about light quite quickly then. I feel like in our first like few months of meeting each other, you'd come out with me while I'm doing street photography, and you'd have your pen and your paper, and you'd do your thing, and later on you'd say to me, oh man, there's something about light I'm understanding differently. And at the time, I really didn't know what you were talking about. I was like, okay, cool, right? But just even hearing you talk about it there, and you know, as we continue to grow and you keep talking about.
Sorry again, everyone's having a slight technical hitch here. We're just trying to get Dean and Emmanuel back, and I can see them there.
Hey
guys, how are you? You're back with us.
What happened there? So apologies, but we can jump straight back to where we're at.
I don't know what you heard up to. I don't know how long I was.
Yeah, if we just start from the next slide, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, here, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
What was I saying? Basically, yeah. So this is an image that was part of a project where, given my experience having studied history and literature and having kind of focused on my own history and tried to find African and Caribbean literature, because I hadn't previously been able to access those things at school, I kind of wanted to make my own project where I would go and speak to people and find out if they had similar perspectives, understandings, questions, just about, you know, life and the world. And I kind of kept Emmanuel in the loop with this project, and I asked, yeah, if he would be up for helping me do it. So helping me basically make contact with people, you know, just say hello. One thing I learned about Emmanuel as a street photographer, you know, he's got this really charming way of like meeting someone he doesn't know, and then, you know, within like 5 minutes, they're, you know, they're smiling, they're posing, they're like, you know, they're showing off. And he's got a way of bringing that out of people that he doesn't know, which I was blown away by. I was like, how can you just go up to someone you don't know, and the next minute, you know, they're just comfortable. So off the back of that, yeah, so we took the camera out and we recorded a set of images. We went out and spoke to people who had kind of interesting styles and interesting hair. And we kind of, so I was drawing the process, we did interviews, and then the idea was that it would turn into like a big visual artwork. So in the previous slide, it showed Emmanuel's photo of the piece that was one of the pieces I was working on. That was part of the same series. So yeah, basically, what I love about this image as well is the kind of like I think we was walking past this like dark alley in Brixton, just in between the market. So we went from like really vivid color to really high contrast shadow. And Emmanuel helped me to kind of straight away frame like what this image that I was going to make in response to this project was going to look like. And it was like this idea of visualizing this kind of like the shadow voice, or this kind of inner voice, the things that we kind of know and feel about each other, or we might assume of one another, but that we don't necessarily get to interrogate on the day-to-day. So the kind of things I wanted to explore, and that I would through the conversation with Margot, these images helped actually create like a response to that project. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You remember these, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I don't know how long ago that was, but yeah.
And then I think the next one. So this is another of Margot. And then, so then basically this image is what would come from the collection of photographs, interviews, and conversations. So this was part of the same like dot and kind of really intricate line series, where, yeah, like I said, I was trying to like put on paper the kind of, because, you know, when you're drawing something, you have to kind of submit to the fact that you're not saying it, or you're not being direct. You're creating a world that hopefully enables some understanding or doesn't. So from Emmanuel's photos, I think like we helped curate a kind of character that was made from a real person that would, feed into the artwork and then become something else. So for me, this is one of the artworks that I'm really proud of. I always kind of look back to remember, like, when you make a project that is really well-rounded, and you're not just thinking about one medium or one outlet or one way of expressing it, then you end up with like something that is really multifaceted. And that serves to remind you of kind of what you're capable of at the same time. And I think that, yeah, working with people who don't work in the way that you work, like it sharpens you, because you have to start taking on new skills and abilities. So for me, like, like I mentioned, where in the previous picture, there's the kind of the darkness. So I'm always interested in like the contrast. So I wanted to kind of echo that. You can see at the kind of top, there's like a background that is kind of like, I don't know if it's like a night sky, starlit, or if it's like, I don't know if that's helpful either. Oh yeah, that's too early. Yeah. So basically, yeah, this piece was kind of an imagined reality that kind of demanded multiple people for the making of, which is why I wanted to share this one. But you remember, innit, when I was doing those dots?
I do, yeah.
It was like,
have you still got this?
Yeah, we got this. Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to talk about it. We'll have to talk later.
I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking to you. I don't know if you.
No. I'm real what you're saying. This is yeah. I mean, it's and like you say, looking back, like you've done so much now, and I feel like you were the first person I really was able to spend time around that was drawing and doing the sort of stuff, which is also like so helpful for me to see. Art created in another form than what I'm used to, which is photographing. And yeah, I probably was quite not annoying, but I remember sometimes being like, "You're not done yet. You're not done," because maybe at some point these which looks like to me almost like an afro comb or brush comb. I mean, those weren't added, and maybe you were doing just this part, and I was like, "What's coming next?" And so to even have a proper look at it now, it's like. And even then, and then what you've done since, it's a nice one to go back to, and yeah, it gives me more appreciation. You definitely gave me a lot more appreciation for the process and stuff. So yeah,
nice. And then, so if you remember the faces that I showed you, then I was kind of developing those faces in these paper pieces as well. So I'm assuming you can all see this, the mouse, the cursor. You can see it.
Hopefully.
But we're assuming so. So these faces, yeah, these faces kind of form the basis of all the artwork in the street. This next picture, I chose this picture because I think this is when I was experimenting with like making clothes or printing onto clothes, and was trying to figure out like what like our aesthetic would be. And like I said, yeah, Emmanuel, like in between, like, doing all of his work, like he was always happy if I called to kind of like, come, and we go for adventures around London. We'd find location that looked interesting, that looked exciting, that looked kind of familiar but unknown. And we try to make artwork in those environments, which had the purpose of, one, if we're printing clothes, then we can take photos of them, and then hopefully at some point we can seek to share them, sell them, or whatever.
And that was mainly your idea. Like, I remember you having like, the idea to just, take your work into, whole different levels. And looking back, it was quite good that you experimented in that way to put it on clothes and stuff, especially at the time. I had like a huge interest in like location scouting and photographing lookbooks. I'd done like some like successful campaigns for like Adidas and stuff at the time, and And a lot of the success of those campaigns came from my knowledge of locations. So yeah, when you came to me with a close and said, "Oh, can we like just go for a walk and just make something happen?" I was ecstatic at the idea of being able to contribute by just bringing some location to allow the clothes to look good in that environment. So that was definitely a fun part of the process, no doubt for me.
So yeah, this is, I guess, part of the same thing. Figuring out, like, you do a lot of artwork in one place, whether it's at home in your studio or your familiar place where you do that activity. But then, outside of actually doing like a mural on the street, I guess in the midst of taking photos of the clothes, you could kind of example with different textures and backgrounds. You could imagine like curating a show that took aspects of maybe what you take for granted in your day-to-day journeys through the street. So I think, yeah, once again, like, these adventures that I had with Emmanuel, like, I give so much credit for like, literally, like, we just go out and we just enjoy the freedom, and the kind of the license was, okay, we're making something of this moment in time. We don't know exactly what it's going to be, but at some point it will pay off, in a sense. I mean, that's what I had in my mind, and an opportunity to be able to do that, having met Emmanuel, taking these crazy photos. Yeah, it was definitely all power to the cause. So yeah, this is another one where, once again, experimenting with different ways of applying art and making things. So t-shirts, woolly hats. I guess these were quite like, this was like this before I discovered screen printing. So yeah. It's pretty impractical, because I was just painting on the shirts. But it did survive the wash, good quality stuff, but also, like, it was quite dense. If you wore the t-shirt, like, you'd be weighed down by the weight of the design. But anyway, yeah, once again, we had the opportunity, why not? Let's make the shirts. Got nothing to lose. It cost a couple of pounds to test an idea. And eventually that would lead to, if he was interested enough, which I was, that led to me learning how to screen print and do it better, basically, more with more kind of quality in mind that people could wear as well. So yeah, this is like, we went to a local basketball court. I don't play basketball. Everyone thinks I play basketball because I'm tall, but I don't. But I can reach the hoop, so it's a good opportunity to get a shot that maybe a lot of people can't get. But I like this one not so much because of the reasons just given in regards to like the clothes and whatnot, but just like I guess, yeah, once again, the frame and the light. I guess it's weird seeing I always find it weird seeing myself in photos, but when it's something like this, like where Emmanuel's edited it, and I can see like there's so much shadow and depth in the sockets in my eyes, and there's like, there's a big curve of light and reflection, which, to me, like that just looks like emotion. So whether I was feeling that or not at the time, like that was what Emmanuel managed to capture. He pressed the button at the right time, and then through seeing things like this, I think that helps me understand how, okay, through kind of figuring out how much contrast I want to put into an image, it helps me understand like how much emotion I can convey. Kind of, I wouldn't say it's like that straightforward, but I feel that when I look back through these photos, it's like I was like, oh yeah, I can kind of see where what I was able to kind of emphasize that part of the drawing, but also the movement of it, because if you're drawing someone, you could, you'd have to imagine this particular scene, unless you orchestrated, some kind of stage where someone was able to be positioned like this. you know, if someone jumped up, you're not going to be able to draw them quick enough. Whereas obviously with the camera, you can do that. You know, if you've got the right person behind the camera, you can capture like movement and the detail of movement in an amazing way. So in getting these photos back, it was always beautiful because I had images for the clothes, which I was thinking about, but also I had just beautiful artworks as well, which could help me when I was drawing, especially given that I do quite a lot of figure focused drawings. Yeah. And then I guess this is another of a similar vein. I mean, you could look at the woolly hat now, man. It's all, you can tell, you know, it's not going to last. That design is the paint is too thick. But once again, this picture is, for me, a bit more significant, more kind of how it shows the kind of urban nature of London. I think because it's, you know, it is a concrete jungle and there's so many buildings everywhere, the nature has like a particular significance when it arrives. Like, you know, everyone goes to the park as soon as the sun's out. You know, the little bits, people are grateful for the little bits of nature. And I think that I'm rarely interested in nature into the artwork or the drawings, but when I think of it in like the way that you experience nature in the city, in this kind of minimal sense, I feel like there is something that does go into the work, but it has to be quite minimal. I think once again, seeing photos of this, especially Emmanuel's photos, it helps me kind of understand how I see London, how I deal with nature in the context of the city. Do you remember this one?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's like you said, I can't remember if it was you or me, but I just remember like us going down some back streets in like southeast London, and then just
Old Kent Road, isn't it?
Yeah, and then this like kind of bush appearing in it, and just knowing that I wanted to use it as just a backdrop, not really focusing on the back, but just using that green for your silhouette to be kind of framed around. And it's nice. It does. I feel like, yeah, it did work okay.
Okay, and then I guess we're fast forwarding now to. Yeah. Okay. We're fast forwarding now to 2020, which has been a weird year, I think, for everybody. So yeah, in my house basically is like, there's quite a few of us who live here, and most of us are artists. So once the lockdown, like the bells of lockdown started ringing, we kind of decided to like just do the things that we spoke about doing in terms of making artwork, public artworks, installations. So yeah, I guess I've been doing street art for a little while now. And yeah, I was able to invite people to come with me and paint. An idea was to kind of paint messages of support for people who, you know, were working in ambulances, people working in hospitals, people who, you know, what they were calling the front lines and whatnot. And then it just kept on evolving, basically. So initially it was me kind of using my characters, but in this kind of adapted way to do something that I thought was positive, but also gave me something to do. It's quite easy to do street art when there's no one around, so you can kind of stay safe and out of people's way if you just get on your bike or you get on your scooter. It's quite easy to do, and given that everything was boarded up, there was a lot of places to do it. But anyway, what came from that was that people I was painting with, they kind of, you know, they figured out their styles, and they figured out exactly what they wanted to do in regards to making art in this way. So in this collective that has newly been formed, you know, people come from different backgrounds of illustration or sculpture or photography. But yeah, I guess lockdown, one of the silver linings for us was that it was an opportunity to just completely extrovert the kind of the artwork and to respond to the kind of pressure, this building up pressure of you're gonna have to stay at home, you're gonna have to do this, you know, with something that was positive and was good for our mental health and was hopefully useful for people's mental health who will be, you know, walking around the town at that particular time. So yeah, following, I guess, the murals and it was a growing project, so we kept doing more and more. We was getting quite a lot of response from the media, and then, you know, we started learning that people of African origins, Black and Asian origins, were kind of dying in larger numbers. So then also that kind of gave extra urgency to do more murals. So yeah, we kind of just have been keeping at that, and obviously Emmanuel, fortunately, was with us and was able to shoot some work and help us, you know, keep making these projects. So this is another just example. This one's in Soho. I think I just put this in there just kind of like showed the lineage. So from this image here, which was just, you know, something quite unanticipated, and then to eventually now, for me, it's just a reminder of, like, you know, you just keep doing something and then it enhances. You don't know where it's going to go, but if you kind of embrace the not knowing, but you're committed to it, then something will grow, something will blossom. So for me, yeah, it's nice to be able to chart something's history and chart your own kind of decision making through your artwork. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so this image would hopefully relate or start with a point of relation to some of the work we've been doing a bit more recently. So I made this is a monoprint that I made in the etching room of the drawing school. So this was like a sketch. I've been doing a lot of sketches like this in my sketchbooks. Like I said, I'm studying like history, African history, European history, Caribbean history. So I was looking at boats and the transportation of people, things like slavery, migration. So for me, this image is really uncomplicated, or it was at least when it was a sketch initially. And that was quite a departure from the more dense work I was doing, like I showed you with the dots and the lines. But what I like about this work is kind of, like, especially the sails, the kind of, there's kind of like a freedom in the sails that I didn't really expect. I didn't plan for. That's just something that kind of occurred. And for me, like, once again, it's that idea of like you explore an idea and you don't know exactly where it's going to go. So the reason why I put this one in, because recently we've been working on this project where we're designing the sail for like a big boat. There's a big boat in Greenwich. Yeah, called the Kaisak. And so we've been commissioned to recreate this sail. And then for me, it was like, in getting that news, the first thing I thought of was like, oh wow, like that's kind of like, you know, it's interesting that all that learning, all that reading, and that focus on an idea and the consideration of the sail, my drawings, I can look back from my sketchbook and see how I thought about it. And then now it's like, oh, okay, wow, like that's actually something that we are actually going to be able to do in real life. Mm. So yeah, for me, it's just important to include that because I think that's really important. Like whenever you're drawing, you're creating your own kind of like story, your own kind of like diary, but you don't know at what point you're at in your own diary. So yeah, hopefully that makes some sense. And then this next image I included because it relates to the mural at the school, which I did on Friday. And yeah, it was quite an ad hoc piece. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do something that kind of touched upon everything that I kind of have studied and have been trying to export. So I kind of wanted to, you know, touch on the idea of, you know, people from somewhere else coming somewhere and having something to share, something to spread. So in the mural, we kind of focus on artists and this idea of using expression to kind of overcome depression, to kind of, you use expression to respond to a given situation. So if your situation is negative, it's about channeling that negativity and making something positive. It's like making something tangible that you have options to use in some way or another. And I think that for me, that's what drawing does. It means you create a space for yourself, and you create an option. So I wanted to, like, yeah, just have this kind of scene where it's, you know, you have people, and you know, we don't know what's around the corner. So 2020, it was a pandemic. It was, you know, it was so many things. Of catching up with friends, and you find out about how crazy everyone's lives have been. But I think in our house, like, you know, focus on our art, like that was the key to it. Like that was it. Like focusing on what we can do and projecting something useful, something that is a response that other people can access. Yeah, that was kind of an important part of it. So basically this image is kind of, so there's like a character called the Spectre, which appears in the mural at the school. And I think in this drawing, the Spectre was born as kind of like this skeleton. It kind of like, it's like, it takes away, it's like a subtracting figure, I think. And it's kind of like the unknown. We don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what we're going to kind of stumble against. There's like an invisible obstacle at times, but you kind of have to keep going and stay strong. So that is hopefully what the mural conveys, is that, you know, you stay strong regardless of the challenge, wherever it comes from. And that by, you know, learning your own kind of skill set and championing that and fighting with, you know, exactly what it is you were made out of, then, you know, you will make progress. Or at least that is my perspective on painting and drawing. So yeah, that leads into the mural. So this is on the left-hand side of the mural. You've got this kind of figure that relates to a lot of the Stay Strong murals, and she's kind of like, she's holding a brush, which also looks like a torch, and she's kind of, I don't know, yeah, she's kind of just providing some, like a support or some inspiration for, I guess it's like young people or young artists or the next generation to kind of, you know, fight with their ideas. That's the idea behind that. It's kind of, you know, you fight against stagnation with your ideas. And then on the second side, that's the second part of the story. So they're fighting the Spectre, and I can't remember exactly what the keys are. I think it relates to kind of, you know, the idea of sharing access and kind of sharing opportunity. And, you know, you fight with your ideas, but you kind of make space so that other people can do the same. So yeah, hopefully that is not too much of an explanation of the mural, but enough. Oh wait, and then now on to Emmanuel.
Cool. I don't even know where to start. I've literally just put up a couple of my images. I could talk about each one, but yeah, like Dean said, we met like some years ago. I guess I do photography, and this is like basically one of my favorite pictures I've taken. I took this picture in Istanbul. I was doing like a job for a footwear brand, and they put me in Turkey to basically photograph out there. And on my way to a shoot, I found the staircase, which one of my favorite old school street photographers is called Henry Cartier-Bresson. And he has an image which was taken on this staircase in Istanbul, which is called the Commando staircase. I must have been here for about 45 minutes trying to photograph the staircase in whichever way I found, suitable. I've pretty much tried every single angle. And yeah, about 45 minutes, after 45 minutes of spending there, some friends of mine who I was with was kind of like trying to tell me that, let's leave now, it's time to go. And so I left, but then I just had this feeling that maybe I should turn around and take one more shot. And as I did, I caught these twins wearing, identical twins wearing the same clothes, running down the steps, and the motion that they were. And yeah, to this day, I'm pretty sure this is probably my favorite shot I've taken. And it's like Dean was saying something about, I could go out with my camera, take 500 pictures, and he could, and at the same time, he probably could get one sketch or two. And that's true. But for me, like, this picture is like proof of, you kind of have to be sometimes in the right place at the right time. It's like there was no skill involved. There was no, it was like fluke. But then I believe that you also create your own luck in photography by putting yourself in the streets often, as much as you can. And yeah, I mean, in my 6 or 7 years of taking photos, this is one of the only moments I've had. One of maybe 2 or 3 moments I've had where it was just right place at the right time. So yeah, that's that one.
I remember that photo.
Yeah, this is a shot I took in Soho. I look at it now and I almost can't remember what I was thinking at the time when I took it. Like, what did I like? I mean, I know I like the shadow of the figure's head, but also how the head is enlarged. And then the body is hair, and it just kind of doesn't fit in terms of the size of the head and the body. But it's just that kind of, I guess it's the condensation behind the window. There's something about that I really liked, and that's what made me want to photograph that one. This picture is, again, kind of like right time, right place. A lot of my work is on Instagram, and that's kind of how I started taking pictures. I mean, I took pictures before Instagram, but I ended up sharing a lot of my images on Instagram as time went on. I've been on the app since, I'd say, the day it came out. I took this picture maybe 5 years ago. I was on a night out, and I think I was like in the smoking area, and I met this guy. We started speaking. He was a really nice guy, but he was talking about like this wound or this stab wound that he had. And I asked him to show me, and he showed me, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I always carry my camera everywhere with me, like whether I'm like out drinking or partying or anywhere, the camera's with me. So I took the picture. But I always have this weird thing with sharing images that are quite graphic on the internet. I've got my little brothers and family members on social media, and I'm not a fan of, glorifying like stabbings and stuff like that. However, I think about 2 or maybe 5-6 months ago, I was looking through my hard drive and I found this image, and I remember I never shared it with anyone. So I posted it on social media, and someone knew whose scar it was, and they actually tagged the guy in the picture. And then he commented on the picture and told me that I ended up posting that picture on his very birthday. And he was just saying to me that he was really happy that I shared it, and that he was, celebrating his birthday, and was also quite thankful for life, and that this picture was like a reminder to him that, he was fortunate, and that not a lot of people have made it through being stabbed. And yeah, I couldn't believe that I managed to post that picture on his birthday. So yeah, it was a deep moment for me, for him, and I guess it got quite a crazy response on social media as well. So yeah, that was interesting. This is just this picture is like so I took this picture. I'm born and raised in like Hackney, like Homerton, Dalston, Clapton area to be exact, and I left the area a long time ago. Just for like, I'd like to move around a lot. So whenever I get an idea to like work on a photo project or something, rather than like just going to the area and doing it, I tend to try and put myself in that area, like, and live there. So I left Hackney for a while, but like a couple of years ago, I moved back there. And this guy was like a character. Sometimes he'd have like a hamster on his arm or like a rabbit that would just run beside him. And this particular day I caught a cat on his shoulder and asked him if I could photograph it. He was more than happy. And yeah, I just love photographing characters. Like, it's a big draw to me in my street photography. Yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, being born and raised in London, I always have grown up seeing characters. Not always had the confidence to go and speak to them, but as I've grown older, it's become quite easier to interact with the different characters on the street. So this guy just happened to be one of them. Yeah, this picture, I mean, I could have picked another one, but this picture for me, a big part of what draws me to photography is being able to make an image feel like it's got something in it, like an emotion, like maybe like it's moving. Probably more so the cinematic element. Like, I love to make an image feel almost like it's a still from a movie. And I can accomplish that, like Dean said, through like messing with contrast, making things dark, bringing out light. I think I was working on a job for the Waterloo Council at the time, and so this shot was taken in Waterloo. And yeah, it was just at that time when the light's low, and then yeah, just wait for a figure to come by. So yeah, that's that. No, this is San Francisco. So when Trump was kind of elected or whatever as a president, I was contacted by the US Embassy to go out to the States and to basically document America. Like they took me, the embassy did give me a lot of opportunity to go and see different things in the States, but the aim of the trip was to basically just make America seem a bit more positive than what it maybe might come across to millennials or people of our age range or whatever. And I guess my Instagram page is always viewed as a page that has people of that age range that view my work. So I went to Washington, DC, West Virginia, San Diego to see the Mexican border and stuff. This happened to be taken in San Francisco. Yeah, it's just a shot on one of the hills or whatever. Yeah, I just kind of like it because of the figures and stuff. Silhouettes. Yeah, silhouettes. Yeah, Brixton. This is the Brixton shot. It's quite self-explanatory, really. The fact that the guy's in the phone box, not using the phone box, but using his own phone. It's just one of those funny moments that I kind of caught quite quickly, and then it was done. Yeah, loads of moments like that. I mean, to this day, I go past that phone box and think, wow, like, I've never seen something like that happen there again. But so I was kind of lucky there. Yeah, this is one of my first ever pictures. This is like the last picture I took on like a long trip in New York. So again, going back to the Instagram thing, Instagram gave me the opportunity to connect with a lot of different artists. Some of the artists who I connected on there with were, in my opinion, some of the best photographers of my generation. And so going to the States in 2014, I got the chance to spend like 10 days there, met all these photographers. And on my last day, I had like about 3 hours to get to it before my flight, or 4 hours. And my friend said that I'd probably like to come and visit this place called the Freedom Tunnel. So I went down there. And I'm not sure if you can see these shards of blue light, but they're all created by like a smoke bomb. So it was like the light was kind of shining down. We threw some like smoke kind of grenades on the floor, which then created this mist, waiting for that to settle. And then it created this kind of effect in the tunnel. And then we probably spent about an hour just shooting, photographing that with trains passing by. Looking back at it, it probably was quite dangerous, but at the time I was just kind of, I was in a situation I'd never been in a place that was just so kind of captivating. So yeah, I tried to be as safe as possible. And then this shot was taken in Hong Kong. The first shot I ever took in Hong Kong when I got there about 4 years ago. It's taken in an alleyway in Central. Again, it's the cinematic vibe I was going for with this image. I guess these are just some some restaurant workers in the back just cleaning and working or whatever. And I just like the texture of the water on the floor, the detail of the guy's back, and almost just all the extra bits that you can just see on the side, the way the water kind of reflects in the bowl there. Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite shots from Hong Kong. And that's me. Yeah, that's it really.
Nice. I love that photo.
Thank you. Yeah. Get your.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both. I think you both have given us just the most insightful and incredibly generous masterclass in how to be an artist. I mean, I think for me, it's been amazing to see how you've talked about such different media, but how your eyes connect to the environment you experience. And then when I hear you talk, you talk about light, framing, contrast, emotion, how to catch movement. I mean, you sort of talk in those technical terms about sort of composition, and then how you translate it in terms of, that both your media creates this an option to sort of frame what you are seeing. And I just thought, Dean, we were sort of talking before also, and you said how much you learned from Emmanuel about sort of framing and light. And I think, Emmanuel, you were talking about the decisive moment, and that I heard you say there's no skill in it, it was just luck, but my God, there's a lot of skill in it. You just take it for granted in a way. And I think these sort of conversations, I feel that you can enhance each other by recognizing what the other does, and then you both reflect about your work and your decision making and how that takes you on to the next journey. And I think that's so important. This is why I was sort of saying I felt like you're giving us a masterclass, because it is that kind of reflection and recognition that then creates new opportunities of making and creating. But I just wondered whether the two of you can still, I mean, I'm also having sort of our foundation students here in mind, who've just started on the 1st of September, and we're just going through this sort of compositional decisions. And I mean, I'd like to sort of invite all our foundation students to come, please. This is your chance to ask both Dean and Emmanuel questions, because I'm sure you've connected with loads of what you've just heard. So ask them technical questions, ask them how their decision making has worked. But maybe I just wonder whether we could kick off asking you about a bit more about this, how you both sort of see light and framing, and how you can create your own vision through that.
Well, can I quickly say something, like, because we've still, I don't know if are we still screen sharing? Because I've got
a stay on the screen share, because then we can flick forward and backward. That'd be really good.
Can you see this photo, the Hong Kong photo?
Yes.
Yeah, so I've seen this photo before, but I'm looking at it now, and it's to me, it's really interesting, because at the moment, well, at least for the past, I don't know, year and a bit, I've been quite specifically using like water as like a medium, and then see how water disrupts what else might be on the paper or the material or the surface. But then, like, for me, it's interesting because looking at this piece, and you can see the kind of the reflection of the water on the ground. But then it's interesting because, did you see this scene like whilst you was on ground level, and then all right, so you wasn't like you saw it and you recognised
right up to
yeah. So I was like, hang on, how has he figured out that that's going to look so amazing?
No.
But it's interesting though, because that does look more like, you wouldn't call that, I don't know, you wouldn't really call it a photograph. You call it like you call it an artwork. It's not like your normal, not like your normal photo. Like you couldn't say this is selling anything. It's like, it's such a precise
Yeah, the perspective.
Like even like the, you know, this guy's his bones. You know, it looks like a kind of like a storyboard almost. It looks like a graphic novel to me. When I look at it, it's just I find quite interesting. I don't always, as much as I'm inspired by your photos and really good photos, I don't always have a feeling where it feels like, oh, this is something that would make sense to draw.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing it's just the texture.
Yeah. No, so I feel like, yeah, I mean, just talking about this image in particular, I've always, like you, I can imagine, like you said, you might have thought, I've seen it on the ground level and then gone up to the top. Yeah. But I was just on the top of a Starbucks, like, having coffee, and I was just trying to take pictures of, like, you know, what I saw in front of me. So, and, you know, being in London, you don't have that same access of, like, going on a higher ledge and then looking down. If you look down, you know, it just doesn't work like that. So, like, yeah, in this scenario, it was quite nice to look down and be so close to the scene. Yeah, in terms of framing, yeah, I was very, you know, framing is obviously everything. I'd say personally with my own photography, I'm actually not the best at framing. Like, I have friends that are like very like, you know, they wouldn't like the fact that this and this is not level, like this bottom part, and, you know, maybe that stairs there, that bamboo staircase, they'd make sure it was in a bit more, or I'm not the best at framing. I like to just, and I don't care really, like the framing is important, but I would just make sure that I capture the essence in the shot, and then, you know, the energy really. Yeah. What was the question about our take on framing? And
so yeah, I think I completely threw that on.
Yeah.
Can we go to? We've got lots of questions in Q&A. So first of all, Shamin Canis, I hope I pronounced this right. He says, "Thank you for creating this all for us. I'm super glad to see you and your work." And then Catherine, she's saying, asking about your murals. She's saying, so lockdown meant you simply went for what had been building up. Did you feel like a kind of release? And what would you like to do in street art?
So I misunderstood the bit about the release.
So she says, did you feel a kind of release?
Oh, in street art? Yeah, absolutely. I think in doing the drawing, yeah, like you know, it was like, okay, I'm going to be inside somewhere drawing with other people. That was my challenge for the year. It was like, wow, there's so many other people and we're all drawing. It took me a while to kind of get used to that, and then, you know, a year later, it's the opposite. It's you know, it's isolation. You've got to figure out, you know, how you're going to deal with the things that are in your head when you're by yourself. So I think, yeah, like the street art was an opportunity to, you know, there were so many hoardings. Like, you know, London was just people were leaving London and they were returning if they lived outside of the city to their families. So the city, it was a completely different place. It was abandoned. So yeah, it did feel like a release to be able to do the artwork. But, you know, when we was doing it, we'd often get, you know, messages of support from people who saw us doing it. And that let us know instantly that, you know, this is going to be really useful for people. So that for me provided extra release. Like, you know, some people were really generous, some people were tipping us. You know, like it's people taking photos. It was nice. It was a nice time for kind of seeing how artwork can be appreciated beyond the usual circumstances.
There's another question relating to this, saying, where did you get the confidence to make art in public? Is there a way to ease into it? Is it just about diving in?
Well, yeah, I've got to give full credit to my brother in that one. Nathan's my older brother. You've probably seen his work. He does loads and loads of artwork around the city. And for me, whilst I do enjoy doing street art, but it's not my, you know, predominant enjoyment. It's not the avenue that I will solely occupy. But for my brother, like, his relationship with street art is very much loves, you know, it's an opportunity to express publicly. And, you know, growing up, and, you know, we'd go out when we was younger together. And over the years, my interest has built in the public aspect of that. And then also, after a while, you realize, you know, you really can't afford to be too worried about what other people think in life, because you know, you won't do what you need to do. So I think that, yeah, doing things like street art and putting yourself in positions that challenge kind of, you know, natural fears, will, yeah, that's how you grow confidence. And maybe, yeah, that confidence has grown, especially in regards to street art, through having access to people such as my brother who would do these things, seemingly having already learned those lessons of confidence. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions for Emmanuel, and I'll sort of, if it's okay, to just put them together, because I sort of know we want to answer as many as possible. So the one question is, did Emmanuel become known through posting on Instagram, and how else would you suggest raising an artist's profile? And there's also a question about what sort of equipment to use, and how and if you edit your photos.
Okay.
So I think there's an Instagram question, if you feel that's, you know, is that a way to raise your profile, and how you use your equipment?
Sure. So yeah, like I said, I joined Instagram, and like I developed an interest for photography in 2010, and that was just before Instagram came out. And then I started using Instagram in 2011. I had no idea of how like big the app was going to become, and I also wasn't taking any great images at the time. What helped? Sorry, so the question is there benefit in boosting your profile? But then what happened was, in like, let's say 2012, 13, I started to look on Instagram for these things called meetups, where people would meet up and go and take pictures of each other and go on photo walks. And that was quite a big thing in helping me to actually just like, you know, dissect and like talk to these people who were also enthusiasts of like Instagram and stuff. So we'd go out, take pictures together, and I'd end up kind of getting my picture taken a lot by certain people. Some people have big profiles, and it just kind of spiraled into like me getting more followers from like my work landing on people's pages. And then I'd collaborate with some of these Instagram artists where I'd give them a picture of mine, they'd give me a picture of theirs. And we'd edit each other's picture and post it and stuff like that. And then when I went to America, like the States, and met the people there, you know, it was all just like a snowball effect. Your work ends up on different people's pages, and then yeah, that was actually quite instrumental to like my growth, because yeah, I feel by about 2015, I had like 100,000 followers on Instagram, and this is quite early on, like when that wasn't quite common for like a photographer. And it was all just through like, basically just like meeting a lot of people. You know, I was meeting people every week. You know, after work, I used to work like a normal day job. I was doing charity fundraising, but every day after work, I'd go and meet one person, two people. And in the week, it'd be like, you know, my work would be shared on like almost 20 different pages, and that kind of helps. And then it was quite a strategic thing at the time, to help the growth and also to learn. But I can't lie, I don't really use Instagram with an interest, and I haven't really done so for like the past 5 years now. So I couldn't, the Instagram's changed now. So I used to be able to give people advice as to how to boost their own profile, but nowadays it's not the same thing, because the algorithms have changed. You know, your pictures don't come in the same chronological order. It's hard, but definitely would advise people to reach out to people that you're inspired by, ask them for advice, and you know, I'm always giving advice to people if they need it and stuff. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's about the connection, isn't it? You create with like-minded people and then work with each other, like your friendship has shown as well. The other question was, what camera do you carry around with? And
I started taking pictures with an iPhone. Like I literally, all of my images came from an iPhone for about 5 years. I used the iPhone like religiously. Like I had a camera, I had like a Canon 1000D, but I was too scared to use it because I didn't know how to use the settings. I didn't know how to change the dials. It was just scary, like for me. But then I got a job with like Levi jeans and like some years ago, and then I shot the campaign on my iPhone, and luckily enough, like they accepted the images. But later on, they let me know that they did want like to be, they did want the images to be able to be printed and stuff. And then that was when I kind of like looked at myself and was like, right, I'm gonna have to learn how to use the camera. Yeah, I couldn't tell you the amount of hours I've put into using and learning Adobe Lightroom. Adobe Lightroom is like a software that I'm like, I couldn't tell you how many hours. I've spent so many hours just lost in that app, learning how to perfect my own colors, my own color palette, to the point that, you know, now I'm pretty sure people who know me, if you saw a picture of mine, you'll be able to identify it by just knowing my color palette. And so I'd also advise that anyone who does use an SLR and does edit, or, you know, any kind of, you know, if you're using a mobile phone or SLR, like I'd say really spend time, like not over editing, but just if you like colors and stuff, just try and find your own style and find something you're comfortable with. There's a lot of inspiration out there nowadays in comparison to before. So yeah.
I find it hugely encouraging that, you know, you're honest about saying how you started to train your eye through the iPhone and then picked up what you needed to do next, and the amount of hours you have to put in. But Dean, I mean, there's a sort of similar thing you were saying. I did this before I did screen printing, because there's a question from Elsa: what medium did you use to make the white of the face in the blue monoprint drawing? Is there is there sort of
white and
this one?
It might have been an earlier one.
what medium did you use the white of the face in the blue monoprint drawing? Photograph the drawing with the hands on it. I think it must have, is it?
That maybe.
Oh, this. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot what monoprint was.
This one, yes. Is that it?
I hope this is the one.
Yeah. So what was the question? What material did I use?
What medium?
Oh man, I was doing a lot of different stuff back then. I'd like, what I do? I can't remember this precise. Like, you know, sometimes you experiment with paint and heat, paint and water.
And I feel like my editing might have changed the color of this a tiny
bit.
Yeah.
But basically, what you're seeing is I feel like basically this is really dense paint. So when we're talking about the kind of white or the grey bit, that's really dense paint over, I think, on canvas, and it's been scratched. These are like kind of trenches, I think, that have been kind of scratched away, and then I've screen printed over it. But basically, yeah, just I can't really remember, but I tried to give everything a go, especially at that time. Like, basically, it's just, you've got to try everything really to figure it out.
I think that it just shows, I mean, that's so encouraging, you know, that you guys are so ready to try and explore and then see what works and why it works and how you then need to research the next step. I fear we probably run out of time, and I know there are more questions, and maybe we can answer them after the talk to the various foundation students especially. And I think we probably have to draw to a close, and I wanted to thank you both for a really fantastically rich sharing of your practices, and I know it's been really encouraging for all the young artists, especially you listening, to see how, you know, your different routes have come. So thank you very much, and I think Kat will put up a screen for the information from for the following talks and how to subscribe to them and register them. So I wish you all a fantastic, lovely rest of the evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.